And YouTube. Good to have you here again this week. Be letting in our Zoom participants as well. Welcome everyone on Zoom. Good to see you. Thank you for joining today. Great to have you here. And we're about to get started. I'll introduce the program and I will also give a bio for our guests and we'll get started here momentarily. A lot of new friends showing up today. Really appreciate that. Um, and I'll give a intro if you're out on the socials like Facebook and YouTube. You haven't been here before. I'll run down what we do at the program each week, and hope you join us again sometime. All right, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. That is this program, and what we do is we gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This could include manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, players of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our crafts, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Master Classes, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. I also always like to remind you we have a podcast audio only version of the program. It can be found at pianotechradio.com. We've been top 100, top 10, even number one status in various locales in the performing arts category on iTunes. We also have a blog at Substack. You can search for us there where we give high level details for piano technicians on the care of the instrument. And also, we have our socials: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and our email list, which you can subscribe to at the website, which is your name and your email. And now, without further ado, I would love to introduce our esteemed guest for today. This is Dr. Michelle Conda, a professor of piano emerita at the University of Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music, where she served as division head of keyboard studies and coordinator of secondary piano and piano pedagogy. Her doctoral research focused on andragogy, the study of how adults learn, leading to innovative adult piano programs and years of influential work in group piano instruction. A performer, educator, and recipient of the 2023 Francis Clark Center Lifetime Achievement Award, she continues to champion lifelong music learning through teaching, writing, and performance. Michelle, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a real pleasure. I've never done
Great.
anything with you all except for use your work.
Well, excellent. It's great to have you here. And look forward to learning more about you and your work today. And thank you for bringing some guests to the show today as well.
And hello, my friends.
Yeah, and this can be so the way that we run the program, it's as interactive as we make it each week. Sometimes we have folks that just kind of sit and enjoy. You're always welcome to put a little comment in the chat. We can even bring people on for a little discussion if we like. Program typically ends about exactly at the hour, so there's not going to be any long extended Q&A. But if we do want to get engaged, we can during this hour. So yeah, feel free, folks. I will dive in here as I typically do, just to really get the foundation. Tell us about how you first, way back when, got involved in music and how it became apparent this is going to be a central focus to your life.
It was always the focus of my life, whether I wanted it to be or not. I started off with my mother playing the piano, my grandparents playing the piano. Everybody in my family has music in their souls, at least on my mother's side. And what happened is I wanted piano lessons. I wanted piano lessons so bad, but I was still too young to get them. Finally, I went in to get my tonsils out, and my mother told me if I was going to be a good girl, I could get my piano lessons. And so that's what really started it, is the piano lessons back then. I had a wonderful teacher that cared about me, cared about how I did, and actually wasn't the best pianist in the world and kind of taught me some wrong things. but she made me love the instrument, and I've stuck with it since. And then every time I would hear music going through, like I would hear flute ensembles. I decided I had to learn to play the flute. I took a viola class or violin class. I decided I had to play viola and I had to be in an orchestra. It's just been the center of my life. Musicians are a different soul, I think, than a lot of
Oh yeah.
just normal people. We have our own life. This is our life. So anyway,
Hmm.
so I just continued through it through high school, played piano for church, for the orchestra, for the band, for the choir, for the musicals, everything I could play for. And then I decided I wanted to be a philosophy major in college. That lasted 2 weeks before I realized with my piano teacher there that I was stuck. I couldn't get out of it no matter what. Once you're in it, you're kind of, and you've got to accept it. And I
Hmm.
did, and I loved it, and I love teaching. I love playing. I'm kind of just really fortunate, I think.
Great. Yeah. I'm curious about what your teacher taught you that was wrong. I remember one of my first teachers. I remember the early lessons, and he was like, "You gotta hold your hands like that." It's like you got to keep your fingers curved on the keyboard. I don't know exactly the intention or whatever, but I clearly remember I had another future teacher was like, "We kind of have to relax. You have to like work with the weight." And yeah, so I'm sure
I,
it's also not the teacher, it's the era, because information disseminates over time, and so
oh,
you can't
that is
expect it. Yeah.
that is so true. I mean, if you read the forward to Hanon books, the Hanon practice books, you're going to learn how to play Hanon exercises. It's completely wrong for today's piano.
Right, right.
Piano's changed so much through the years that you just have to, people end up, like you said, with these crooked fingers and that sort of thing. My teacher's wrong was more like rhythmically, she taught me wrong rhythms.
Oh.
Yeah, but I was in band and I was in choir, and so any of those wrong things got corrected. And plus, it was sort of intuitive for me anyway. I remember the first time she taught me how to phrase. I left the lesson. She said, "Good, good, you know how to do it." And me shaking, I didn't have a clue to what I was doing. It just kind of showed me you have to keep going over things over and over. That's just normal. When the student says they got it, don't count on it. They might not. Got to do it
so
again.
so I love that you have a focus on adult music
Yeah.
learning. One of the things I've always I don't know, I could say I've been frustrated with, or it's just something that I've always had a paid a special attention to, is how how resistant adults are to getting engaged in learning, right? They'll often say, "Oh, I always wish, I took piano lessons when I was younger, and my parents forced me, and then, oh, now I actually wish that I paid attention. Maybe someday I'll go back." But I actually had this one story. I'm tuning pianos. I tuned the piano for the lady, and she said, "Oh, I'm retired now, and I've just got my little grandkids and free time, and so I'm going to start taking lessons again." And I gave her some resources and referrals. Said, "That's great. It's going to be great for your brain and all these different things." And I remember coming back a year later to tune her piano,
She
and I'm
wasn't
tuning her
busy.
piano, and I said, "Did you get started with those piano lessons?" She's like, "Wow, it's been a year." Like, and she just said, and I was like, "Oh, are you gonna do it?" She's, maybe the grandkids take up too much time. Like people have excuses and they don't. So I think it's great that you focused on this and maybe brought some light to the subject, and hopefully encourage more adults to get into playing music. So, but tell us how it emerged as a theme for you. How did it become a central theme for you?
When I was in teaching at the University of Toledo, I had some adult classes, and I think they were called Communiversity or something like that.
Hmm.
Anyway, they were very successful, and I loved them. I loved working with the adults. And the classes were full and waiting lists to get into the classes. And then I took a year's leave of absence, and when I had a very wonderful teacher in my place, but when I came back, the classes were decimated. I had to start like over. And they back within a year, they were back way up again. And I thought, how did I do that? I had
Hmm.
not a clue. So I decided at that point to get my doctorate. And I said, I'm going to go and find out why what I'm doing is right.
Hmm.
And I was just lucky But there is
Mm.
actually a lot of adult theory out there. I mean, I could tell you the answer to your question why the lady didn't take the piano lessons. She
Yeah.
found, yeah, she found something else. A lot of times when people recently retire, they need something to fill a hole, and their desires sometimes aren't the reality.
Hmm. So
So
do you agree maybe that just wasn't the thing for her? We don't need to feel like it's a loss of some sort. It's just she found something else.
she had her grandchildren. She didn't know they were going to take up so much time. She already told you. People
Okay.
move into activities after they retire and they move out
Yeah.
of them. Depends on
Yeah.
what their need is.
Yeah.
It would be so much better if, well, you see, a lot of times when adults take piano lessons, when you correct them, they feel like you've torn at their soul.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's because they're so used to being like in charge of their
Hmm.
children, of their lives, their whatever.
Hmm.
And then when you tell them, oh, you need to do it this way instead, it somehow it rips at them.
Mm.
I know that there are some people out there that are in your audience right now that also teach adults. I think I saw Terry is there, Terry Granick. She might have some
Hmm.
comments on that also, because she works with adults a lot. But
Hmm.
the big thing for adults is if they doubt you, and they're going to doubt you a lot, don't take it personally. That's just how
Mm.
they are. I have one adult student that yesterday, just every week I teach her, I'm about ready to blow my cool because she'll say, I'll say, play it this way. This is how the composer put an accent on this
Hmm.
note. So he wants this part accented. So you know what her comment is to me is, I'll go look up the original source.
Nice. I'm not taking the vaccine.
And I'm like, I have my doctorate. I know the original source, but I can't let
Right.
my own ego get in the way. And
Yeah.
I just said, yeah, I'll be interested in hearing what that is all about.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, go look up the original source, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, that's really common with adults though. They're so used of writing and learning and
Yeah.
memorizing that they don't like to let go. It's hard for them to let go and let someone
Yeah.
else take the wheel.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting theme in general. Um, because just I also have my doctorate, right? And we do research and we look up the sources, right? That's part of what we do. And we question things and we dive deep and but as you're an adult human being, especially if you have like a full-time job or whatever, that you have to focus on some other thing, you literally cannot look up the source on everything, and you really have to make these decisions about I should trust this source or this person. But in some ways it is kind of difficult because especially nowadays there's so many different voices coming from so many different directions saying different things. um, so, but yeah, that's an interesting theme to even explore. How do we establish kind of it is really actually very nice when you can come across one source like a teacher or something where you can just listen and you don't have to question every single thing that they're talking about because you can progress a lot more quickly um because it's not that much different than doing it on your own, right? If you're going to ignore or question everything um somebody says.
In this particular case, the student was working on triplet assimilation, which is do I play if it's one hand's written as a triplet and the other's 16th notes, do I
Hmm.
take that triplet and assimilate it with the 16ths? And
Mm.
I can't argue on this. She ended up with an article on it.
Oh.
So, I mean, a lot of times, if you have a student adult that's playing the piano, you can combine their other interests with it if you
Hmm.
keep in touch. And I think it's also really important if you're working with adults is, like I said, sometimes it just about once a month you have to say how is that working for you?
Hmm.
So I asked you to practice as hands apart and you didn't. But our kids don't either. But you didn't. How did it work? Well, did it work fine? All right. Didn't work well? Well, you might reconsider my ideas. Yeah.
Mm. Hmm.
But you've
That's a
got
good
to put
approach.
the adult in you're a student and kind of they have to be the center. They have to be responsible for their own learning and kind of guide the lesson. It's and you kind of help them through it.
Now, tell us what you understand both experientially and maybe from some of your research about the capacity of adults to learn new things. I
Limitless.
limitless. Okay. Um, one of my theories, which I have not kind of looked up any research around, but it's that adults get the impression that they can't learn something new because their brain has crystallized in some way.
Very
But
good.
but it's not that. It's just actually that they have so many other obligations that they don't have. You look at a kid who learns an instrument or a sport or whatever. I mean, they can spend all day playing soccer. Of course, they're going to get good at soccer. It's going to be difficult for an adult to, become really good at any different thing when they got to spend about 8 hours, in front of a computer writing up reports and then practice for 15 minutes a day or something, right?
Yeah,
But
there's
anyways, what's
education.
what are your thoughts on, what does make it difficult for adults, if anything? And are there some limits? Hey, you know what? You're nearsighted now, and that's forever because you're getting old and you can't hear or whatever. These things are irreversible.
Well, they're irreversible, but they are also correctionable, as you know. I've gotten to the fact that, even though I have my good old bifolds here, when my eyes are tired, I pull down my point 1.5 magnifiers,
Mhm.
myself because it's hard to read music. It's just hard to read music. And you know what you mentioned about crystallization and Cottrell's theory on that? Um, there is a theory on that and about the brain plasticity. We actually have more. We actually can do more than you think we can do
Mhm.
because we can work on our neurons just like any muscle. We can keep working on it, and we could learn limitlessly. But we have to. Sometimes it's harder to get there. Now, as far as speed, that's where adults really get worried because they'll play something and it's half the speed their child plays it at.
Mhm.
And that's depressing. They may know the piece twice as well. They may understand what's going on in the piece, have better dynamics, but their child can play it faster. And I guess a lot of praise does help with adult learners.
Mhm.
You have to guide and encourage.
Mhm.
And speed, I'm having those troubles myself. August 9th is my 71st birthday.
Looking good.
Thanks. And I'm playing Rhapsody in Blue. I've got it memorized. I thought, oh, I'm too old to memorize this. Oh, no, I'm not. I just had to take my time like anybody.
Mhm.
Just because I'm older, it doesn't mean it's faster. I had to take my time. But I find that I have occasional blanks. Like I'll
Mhm.
play a section, all of a sudden I blank out what the next chord is.
Mhm.
And I don't know anybody that's aging probably has felt that same way, where all of a sudden you forgot what you talked about or forgot what comes next.
Mhm.
So what I found I had to do is just starting memorizing earlier, and I had to find a way to get past that blank. What's going to get me
Mhm.
past that blank? And I have
Mhm.
to mark them. I blank here. All right,
Mhm.
cool. This is how
Mhm.
I fix it. I blank here. It's not that I really forget. I blank. I don't know if anybody in the group here understands that. I'm seeing a shaking of the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
that
I
has
think
nothing to do with age. Well, no, it has a lot to do with age, that little blankness. But in learning, you could still learning until you die, you still learn.
yeah, I mean it reminds it's probably a very similar thing where, you walk into a room and you knew you came in there to get something, but you're like, what did I come in here for? Yeah.
Do you know why
And
you
you
do that? Because you've
tell
had
me.
10 thoughts in between.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also our thoughts have context as well. So like, they say if you want to remember a dream that you roll over into the position you were in when you were sleeping and you're more likely to recall it, right? Um, and so probably, the thought comes up in this room right, in this context, and all the
Um,
things that are around me are sort of helping to trigger it and keep it in my head. Then I go to a different room. Now that the thought's not there anymore because the context isn't there anymore. I'm, I don't have
well,
any
I've done that.
papers to cite here, but
I
yeah.
never thought of that, but that's what I've done. I've gone back into the other room. But you know how you could work on that? Practice it.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think sometimes we think that we don't have to practice things just because we're older. Well, no, we have to practice just like, and you know what? A child will run down the street, fall, stand up and run again. Adults don't fall and stand up. What we do is we're afraid we're going to fall, so we don't take chances.
Mm,
And I'm not talking
right.
about literally falling or breaking my leg or anything. I'm just talking about we're very cautious. We get more
Mm,
cautious as we get older. And
yes.
sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is agreed. I've heard this elsewhere recently. I forget where, but it is it is a strange facet of aging, getting older, and when I say that, it doesn't have to even be getting into elderly years or anything. It's just like year by year, um, we generally, I think, become more risk averse.
Yes.
And it's like you said, sensitive to failure or criticism or things like this. And there must be something adaptive about it. I mean, I guess the idea is
Oh,
you want to have learned your lesson, right? Oh, hey, I got up in front of that crowd that one time and everybody started laughing, so I'm never going to do that again. I I tried this new thing and it just got to just, I got distracted from this thing that I had some responsibility I had to do. I'm never going to do that again. So I feel like once you've gotten to a certain age, you've got a lot of I'm never going to do that again that don't they kind of feel like you learned a lesson, but ultimately the younger people benefit from not having learned those lessons. You know, what do you think?
well, I think that we
You think that's
keep
part of what
kids
it
with
is?
lessons. Say that again.
Do you think that's part of what it is? Why we're so risk averse is because we think we've learned lessons, but they're not really
I come
lessons
from a,
that you need to take.
I think I come from a slightly different angle. For
Go for it.
me, is I think adults are afraid that if they make a mistake or whatever, people are going to look less of them
Hmm.
and that they've failed. And they've been
Hmm.
working their whole life not to fail.
Hmm.
So it's not like we're learning from a previous experience. Except for the experience is, I don't want to fail. It's actually a conclusion. I don't want
Hmm.
to fail. But you know what? There's places now adults can get together where they could fail all they want. There's music
Uh-huh.
clubs, there's
Right, right.
organiza orchestras. There's plenty of orchestras that people can play at that they don't have to worry.
Right. It's just like everybody's kind of like like an amateur orchestra or something you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I totally agree that um there is a real issue I think that people deal with in the adult world, in the professional world. It's a weird mix of you need to make mistakes in order to make progress, but let's say, like if you're in a role at a job, and maybe you're competing with someone for a promotion, right? Little mistake that you make, whether it's okay that you made it or not, and part of the growth process, whoever's competing for your jobs be like, oh, Joey made
Yep.
the. Remember when Joey just bombed in the presentation last week? Don't want to promote him. So you deal with that. I do think as an adult, contextually, there's a social context, and you do get punished in many ways for going out on a limb for making mistakes. So it doesn't.
That's what
At
I
least
mean.
when you're younger, it's like everybody's making mistakes, right? Like when you're a high school kid, everybody's awkward, right? So it's really, and everybody's picking on each other, but there's kind of the subtext of, yeah, we're all just teenagers. But
And I think that children, when they fall or when they make a mistake like that, I don't think they think of them as mistakes.
hmm,
I think they just think of them as stand up, brush off, and go on. Part
yeah,
of
especially
this
the smaller children.
experience.
Yeah, yeah. My son is 8, and I mean it's an
Oh,
interesting conversation because we have a little coffee with the principal every month, and sometimes I go and I talk to the principal with the other parents, It's actually a little bit disconcerting that it feels he said there's an issue in our school. You know, these kids are kindergarten through fifth grade. He's like, they don't want to get the wrong answer. They don't want to fail. They're concerned. They only want to um come across as like polished and that they have it all figured out, you know. And he said it was a problem that he's trying to work on. Ultimately, as a group, we came up with this idea. There's like a school mascot, and they started making little cartoons with the school mascot, and the mascot makes mistakes, right? And it's sort of celebrated for doing that. But it may be a symptom of technology and so many things, especially as consumers, uh, get popular that are basically near perfect, right? You go see a movie, right? The blockbuster movie, and you look at it like I can't even imagine how somebody made this amazing movie where everything's like hyper realistic and basically, about as perfect. The story's perfect. It's been designed by teams of people. And so it's hard to go out there and see the way the world is and think little old me can have a stab at it, and that it would be okay if I made a little crappy home movie or whatever. I don't know. But
I
yeah,
know
I
what
think
you're
it's getting
saying.
younger. I think it's getting younger
Well,
this
and
year.
when you were talking before about the job presentation, my first thought is, but in a job presentation, you can rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it, and nobody has to see it.
Right.
Playing the piano is a do thing. When you do
Mm.
something, it's scary because you're gonna mess up here and there,
Hmm.
And so I think that a lot of times it might be, I don't know because I haven't researched this, but it might be on just AI and what you and technology and parents that just expect things to be polished before they ever see them. But in adult learning, supposedly the process is what's important. It's not what you finish, not the finished product. It's the idea of how to learn and what you're learning and the joy you get from it. I really have this feeling that if you're an adult learner, you really need to be around other people.
Mm.
And what, like in a group, maybe group lessons, or I had the really good success in group lessons actually, or belong to a club or an organization. There was one in Toledo called the Late Bloomers Piano Club. And the
Mm.
first rule of the club is no teachers allowed
Okay.
because they didn't want to be judged, I guess. They just wanted to
Hmm.
play and be supported.
Hmm. Mm. That's actually a great. I haven't thought of that as a solution, right? Because often when we think of lessons, especially as adults, we think I'm going to get it because that's what you see for your kids or whatever. They have their one-on-ones. And so you think, "Oh, I'm going to get a one-on-one." It also probably seems like maybe less intimidating in some ways. If I do make a mistake, it's just this one person. That's all I have to deal with. Um, but yeah, having that group, it's great because you get to see other people kind of basically struggling through the process or just being human. And it
And
almost
supporting
sounds
each other.
like, and when you talk about how effective it is, it almost sounds like I would love to see even more kind of, publicly sponsored things like this, right? Like what if your local town, decided to put it'd be a modest expenditure, just say for have like, free sometimes it doesn't work because actually people are less motivated, but something like very affordable, adult group music lessons, sponsored by the city at the park district or whatever. And that could be really interesting to kind of make it more of a public program.
They've done some of that in Cincinnati. Right now, actually, the YMCA is trying to start a similar program to what you're talking about with children.
Okay.
And then with the adults, we do have some area teachers that do teach group piano. And then there were for a little while um, piano labs, I'll call them, in some not retirement centers, but more like community centers
Hmm.
or adult community centers. Uh, you have to have the right teacher for these things. They have to know teaching adults. The field of andragogy is teaching adults. Pedagogy is teaching children. Children.
Hmm.
Andragogy,
Hmm.
that stands for man,
Hmm.
generic man, like mankind.
Right, right,
So it's a different approach. If you get someone that's trained in teaching children, teaching adults, it's not necessarily going to go well.
right. They're gonna feel like they're being treated like kids. Uh, I would love to let's talk a little bit about pianos in general here, beyond the pedagogy thing. Maybe I'll flash a picture of your piano here in a moment once I pull it
Yay!
up. I forget where I have it, but
This is just one
yeah,
of my
just
pianos.
tell us about your relationship to to the acoustic instrument. Have you always had access to an acoustic instrument? How much do you practice on acoustic instrument versus a digital instrument, if at all? How do you approach it with, these adult students, these children students when it comes to, you know, we have in some ways a conundrum today with acoustic versus digital pianos because you can't argue with the portability and the accessibility and the affordability of a digital instrument, but at the same time many of us who are deeply involved in music know that the acoustic
Yeah,
instrument has a power to it, that's somewhat inexplicable. Yeah, tell me a
it,
little bit
it,
about that.
well, it's kind of like when you start taking golf or tennis or even what is that game that everybody's doing right now? Paddleball or
Pickleball.
yeah, pickleball. You start out with the cheap racket, or the cheap golf clubs, but then when you want to do a little better, in order to get better, you're not going to need a better instrument. You're going to need a plastic flutophone only takes you so far.
Hmm.
So I think that a lot of times adults will start with an electronic, but if they really want to know how it feels, it's different playing an electronic piano. And I've played them for years and years and years because I've taught group piano since group piano was invented. Um, ex except for Mrs. Payne, who taught it on acoustic pianos. But I taught it on an electric piano, but you don't get the actual physical vibrations that you do on a grand piano. I mean, it actually feels like I don't know, it's like a child or something when you play a grand piano, especially a good grand piano that feels so good. It's just so satisfying.
Hmm.
Electronic piano is not going to give you that. And electronic pianos don't have the touch. Now, that said, in my house right now, I have two grands, one upright and an electronic. And in Pennsylvania, I have a grand and an electronic. And I use the electronics, but I don't practice on them unless I have to. I'm going to New Jersey next week, and I'm taking my electronic with me because I've got to play concert right when I get back.
Hmm.
So I'll be taking just to, I like the metronome on the electronics because I can build up, and I like the recording. I can record a certain orchestral part and
Hmm.
speed it up as I go and play along with it. That's really nice. So I use it for purposes. But my first piano, of course, was an upright, my first three or four, and I went directly from an upright to a Steinway. And it's because I had the greatest technician when I was teaching at the University of Toledo that found it for me, found this and said, I have another client that really just needs it upright. So I sold them my upright. I got a faculty loan out and got my Steinway. I love my Steinway, but it needs rebuilt.
Hmm.
So that it's an
Faculty loan, that sounds like a really nice resource. It's like a low
oh,
interest rate type of thing for academics.
they have loans a lot of times.
That's cool.
Mine was called a row loan, I believe. Hold on just a second. I need to minimize the screen here. There, did it. Yeah, they'll give loan to faculty members for things, and sometimes you can get grants and all kinds of things to help you out with your professional research. And playing the piano is part of my research. So, um, then I married into a Yamaha. My husband brought it with him.
It's your step piano.
I'm
Is that what you
sorry?
call it? Your step
My
piano?
step piano, I guess. But I'm partial to my Steinway. I can't help it. But then my mother's 98, so we have longevity in my family, thank heavens, living on our own. But I decided I should probably have be able to see her more often. So I couldn't stand living with her though. You know, we can't live with our parents when we grow up. So I bought a little cottage there and I got a piano that someone gave away. It's a
Oh
Schiller,
yeah, I can share it. Is this the one?
1933 Schiller. Please do.
Okay. No, there it is.
I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it?
There it is.
Yeah.
Ah!
So yeah, if you're
Let me,
listening to the podcast, it's a piano that looks like it's painted like a cow.
well, I'm from rural Pennsylvania. A little explanation. It's a Schiller 1933. The
Uh-huh.
artist is actually a wildlife artist that painted it like an Appaloosa horse for its children.
Oh,
And this guy,
okay.
his paintings sell for like $30,000. But I got the piano
Hmm.
for free because he was moving, to Arizona, I believe. And he painted it like an Appaloosa horse.
Cool.
But to go to college, I milk cows, so to me it's my cow piano.
Oh, yeah. Those benches are cool too. They're kind of rare. Does it have
I
the little glass balls at the
it
bottom of the clawed feet?
it,
Yeah.
it does. And if you look at it carefully, if you look at the pedals, they're shaped like square.
Mm-hmm.
See
That's
them?
interesting. Yeah, that's rare. Usually rounded.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. My technician in PA, I think she might be on the call. I'm not sure if she could make it.
Oh, okay.
Her name's Katie.
Okay.
Make
I don't
sure
see a KD in the list of folks, but it could
Lens,
be one of
Katie.
these.
She's actually at a technology conference right now.
Oh, it probably she's PTG conference. Yeah, that might.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite
And
possible.
yeah, she told me but she gave me some info on it. I have had this piano for 6 years and I have never met Katie.
Oh, okay. But she works on it, or okay, you just are passing ships or something. What's the?
Well, because it's my Pennsylvania house
Oh, okay, yeah.
and it's known for being the most snowed in city in Pennsylvania. Like literally we get more snow than Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
So what she'll tune when she can or work on it when she can, but it's often she has to be there when I'm not there. So I just let her in and I trust her completely. But she's been using it to a little bit to help her learn more. She's in the guild and everything, but there's something about the weighting. She's never done the weights on the Schiller piano. So
Okay,
she's been using my piano for fun and practice, and I've been enjoying it.
that's great.
I put lots and lots
Uh,
of hours on that piano.
um, yeah. How are you? And so you have Katie's your technician in Pennsylvania, is that what you said,
Mhm.
or and
Yes,
then you have someone else, the different technician in
in
Ohio?
Cincinnati. Yeah,
Yeah.
Essex. Nevin Essex is his name.
Okay.
And Nevin, he's the perfect technician for me because he's a little bit laid back, and I tend to be a little bit laid back. And he tunes. He doesn't use a tuner. He does it all by ear, and he knows my ear. I've known him so long that he
Mm,
knows my ear. And when he leaves, when I told you about how piano feels when it's right,
yeah.
I have my perfect baby
Very cool.
when he leaves.
Very interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure I know. I mean, we know I know a lot of piano technicians all over the place because because of the programming things, but I don't know if
Oh,
I know that.
sure.
Um, let's talk a little bit more about I guess some of your community efforts. And of course I wanted to reiterate if anybody has any questions or comments, if you're in the audience, feel free to chime in and happy to have a conversation. But yeah, tell us about the piano, was it the piano club?
Yeah. Well, I'm involved
The keyboard club
keyboard
in
club.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, since I retired, which is just kind of recent, I decided to take care of the other part of me, the pianist part of me, more than the teacher part of me. So I'm doing a lot of playing and performing, but the Keyboard Club of Cincinnati is one of those remarkable organizations that invites teachers and students in to come play, and it's totally supportive and non-judgmental. The club has been going on for years and years, and I'm not sure how many years, maybe 100, but it keeps growing. It's amazing. They do interesting things. Coming up in October, we are actually going to do a silent movie by Buster Keaton. Let's see, what is that movie called? It's The Haunted House. And a bunch of pianists are going to play the piano parts to the silent movie. We're going to play the background. Whole bunch
Oh,
of
wow.
Is
That's
that
cool.
cool?
Like the old timey piano, because did they use? I mean, they used to either have a live pianist or they would, I think, have the piano roll sometimes. Somebody would just crank it along or something. Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds really fun.
But and my husband's part of this club too. Um, they also help out by giving money to s- children that need help paying for lessons. They support students at the university.
Hmm.
CCM, yeah. But I love working with them, and it's all adults. Once a month or so, with the children that they support come in and play.
Have you heard of a Steinway Society?
Yeah, but I've never
I
gotten
just
involved in it.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that big of a thing, but I went to, sorry, one time I went to what is it? Puerto Rico. I went to Puerto Rico for some business stuff and but it was just sort of exploring the area. And there's this really I did an interview actually with this woman from this place called the Gallery Inn. And she's an older woman who had just been there for decades and she was from the mainland, United States, but had moved there a long time ago. And I think she was like a dancer and a sculptor and a piano player. She just had a very creative vibe. And over the years, she did a couple of different things. She accumulated a couple of buildings in a row in the downtown old San Juan area of Puerto Rico, um, and kind of converted them in this kind of quirky little artsy hotel or inn,
Oh,
right? So it's got all these like winding little corridors because they were neighboring buildings that just got connected. You knock down a wall, they're kind of like row buildings and it's filled with beautiful sculptures and artwork. And I
yeah.
think she has nine, I want to say Steinway pianos as well. And she started the Steinway Society of Puerto Rico. And she has had Yo-Yo Ma. I feel like she's had like various celebrities there. I want to say like Obama was there, different people like that. And and she said, "Oh yeah, it's the Steinway Society of Prayer." That was the first time I heard of a Steinway Society in general, but it is a thing um, that probably was maybe more popular in previous decades. But it is a thing, and I'm sure Steinway probably helps out in some way, with
I'll have to look
with
it up.
logistic or sponsoring. But it sounds it's not similar because that's more focused on Steinway, maybe like classical presentations and little concerts and things. But it sounds similar, and it's great to have more things like this. Like a piano club. People who appreciate the instrument, especially because it's so hard to transport and you know it's complicated instrument. It's got to be tuned and cared for and all these different things. Having these resources where people can come together around one or two pianos or pianos that have a focused maintenance program or something. It's a great idea.
And the every month the place that we it's hosted at a different place. So it's people with grand pianos from all over Cincinnati will host it. And
Hmm.
sometimes they're Steinways, sometimes they're young. It depends, but there are always good pianos
Mm.
that host this. And I know it's tough, it's expensive, but everybody needs a hobby of some sort, whether it's a hobby. For me now, it feels more like a hobby, which is wonderful because I'm back to playing, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Uh, but
No, that's just, I mean, we've had people on the program too. I mean, you have these people who Uh, they play an instrument. We've had people play violin, piano, various different instruments. Maybe they had a parent who was really serious about it, and they got them practicing when they were a kid. And there's a common story that happens in all domains, probably from sports to music to whatever. somebody had like a really intense childhood where they were almost they kind of liked it, but they didn't you couldn't even know whether you liked it or not because it was such an externally enforced thing, or there was such a system around it. And then there's a moment of rebellion, or like, I don't, I'm not playing this. Dad, I don't want to do this or whatever. But then there's a coming back to it when you reconnect with whatever the joy of it is that you have, and it becomes less of a job and it becomes more of a passion, right?
And a lot of that has to do with time where you're putting your time.
Mm,
There's a lot of places to throw your time as you're growing up. And after you're an adult, it all goes into your family and it goes into your job. So it's tough. There comes a time, though, when you know you need something, whether it's pickleball or piano or you need something. And children do too. Children don't need just school and home. They need something, another place to develop their passion.
mm,
It could be
mhm,
sports, it could be music. It's so interesting you should say that because one of our faculty members in CCM was telling me the same thing about herself. She was forced to practice when she was growing up and hated piano and tried to drop out of it for a while. And now she's like this famous piano person, teacher, and performer. And I won't name a name, but she got through that moment. She got through that
mm,
moment and ended up
mm.
there.
That's amazing. Yeah, we actually had a guest on here who lives in New York. I'm forgetting her name presently, but she had a career. She had a full-on career, professional, corporate career or something, and then started getting into singing. Um, and now she records albums and, is doing professional concerts and things like this, right? It's pretty amazing.
Well, it gets me a little upset when I hear things like Martha Argerich, who's this fantastic, wonderful pianist, is still performing in her 70s. You know, it's not like yeah, I'm still performing. I'm in my 70s. I technically, I'm still probably better than I was because I have more time to practice and I'm
Hmm.
smarter than I
Right.
was when I was younger and not doing stupid things like that.
Hmm.
Um, it, Working our small muscles correctly is not like pole vaulting, where you might get hurt at 70
Hmm.
pole
Hmm.
vaulting. But in my 70s, it's joyful. It's just wonderful. I'm loving it.
That actually reminds me, so it was about 5 years ago when I started getting into marathon running. I'm for about 40, 45, I'm 46. And even at that time, I'm sure to you it seems kind of funny. Like, I'm like a 40-year-old guy. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this marathon. My knees might give out, whatever. My dad had weak knees. So I got into it. And, sure enough, I just kind of started working and the muscle strengthened and it was actually fine, and now I could run longer than a marathon really. And but what was actually very interesting is I joined a running club, talk about clubs and things. And it was just people who would meet on Saturdays to train, and they had the different pace groups and things like this. And there were several guys who were older than me, who were faster than me. And I started to hear this kind of not a rumor or whatever, some buzz that marathon running specifically is like an old person's sport. And I think there's something behind it. What happens as you get older is you're forced to learn to do things more efficiently, whether it's running or playing the piano or whatever. And you start to accumulate all these things. It's like, hey, I'm learning I have a limited amount of energy, right? And therefore I have to learn to execute, very specifically in a targeted way to save on that. And I think you're exactly right. You get better, and younger people can learn a lot from people who are more senior who have kind of basically perfected, the efficiency of the movements and the execution.
Well, you work
Right?
smarter. I mean, I already when you say you did marathons, you're thinking if you're going to run as well as the older gentleman you're talking about, what did you eat for breakfast? I mean, you're eating well, right? If
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
something hurts, you know you're doing something wrong.
Hmm.
But when we're children, we'll just grab our protein bar, not even that, or um, Babe Ruth or whatever, and just
Right,
run.
right.
But we're smarter, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, and you saying it that way, I feel like more it is an interesting thing, the idea of like retiring or not performing as much in the music domain, when people get older. Because yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. There's also a lot of opportunity for creative expression, I feel. Like you said, you may have more time on your hands. You can like come up with interesting ideas. People can compose, and share and yeah, and just be creative, explore their own creativity and also share it with others.
Well, I'm now directing a choir. I'm playing the piano for vocal students at a nearby university. I'm playing concerti. I don't have much time to practice concerti when I was working full time, although I did play about six of them, but now they feel more confident.
Hmm.
So sometimes I feel like now's the time that I can get back into piano the way I started. The reason I started. I'm back. I'm back at the beginning.
um and you don't have to get your tonsils out.
Yeah. Maybe sooner or later I'll have to get those little things out of my eyes. What are those called? The
Cataracts.
cataracts, yeah.
Okay.
Sooner or later
And
I'll have
then
to do cataracts.
you'll get some but a new piano or piano lessons or something because you
For
got your
being so
cataracts out.
good. Maybe I'll get
You-
my piano. All I need new hammers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you
They're
fi-
warranted.
have they been filed down all the
They're
way?
filed down to their bald.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they need new hammers. And Nevin is so good about it, but it's just not the time right this moment.
Hmm. That'll
But
be nice once you get them.
yeah, maybe I'll put my name in for a drawing somewhere, a new hammer drawing. I don't think there is such a thing, but
Mm-mm.
if I
Maybe you
find something,
can you
I'll
still have access to those loans, those special loans?
the row loan.
Not
No,
anymore. Not anymore.
no.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking. We usually like to wrap up around the end of the hour here, so about five more minutes, perhaps to touch more. And again, any last minute questions or comments, if somebody wants to chime in for a minute, we'll do it. But yeah, anything to any
Hmm.
last minute, words of wisdom. We're gonna send people to go check something out. Um, you know, I usually just give people space here as the guest to have their moment to say what you want to say your final piece to us.
Anybody want to say anything? Oh, I see Terry's got her hand up.
Is she waving or does she want to say something? Terry, you're
She's
welcome to.
waving.
She can't tell.
There she is.
What do you got,
Right.
Terry? Did you want to say something or are you saying goodbye?
Terry, start again because your microphone went on and then back off. Oh, it's still off.
She's talk. I said ask to unmute here.
She
I don't
unmuted
know.
for a minute.
Yeah, I know. No, she's still here.
She's
Ask
trying.
to unmute. Ask to unmute. Okay, well, she's kind of
She was
looking like
unmuted for a brief second. Try again.
So am I
there
there?
she goes.
Okay.
Yeah, hey.
I want to say, been teaching even longer than Michelle, even older than she is. But
Hey.
that just bravo. I mean, it's like everything you said, was just really so meaningful. And I think as a teacher of adults, one of the main thing is you have to keep telling them they're not stupid, that what you're going through is normal. And also, be super flexible, be ready to turn on a dime. If something's not working, it's not their fault. It's like, look, what can I do, to help you solve this problem, together. That's what I'm here for. And so it's just the flexibility and the open-mindedness, I think and I know Michelle's that way. And I know my mentor, Mrs. Payne, that founded the Keyboard Club 91 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's close to
90,
191 years.
91 years.
Oh,
And that's the way it
wow.
was. Yes. So
I think it might be the longest running keyboard club of the United States.
probably.
Yeah, I had the impression it started like 5 years ago or something. So that's
No, no,
fascinating.
Yeah.
To add on, you need a bag of tricks, definitely. A bag of tricks. If it's not going right there, you got to pull something else. But I would also suggest, and this really works, telling your adult students about every 4 weeks, the honeymoon will be over.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it for
Right.
like 4 weeks, and then the honeymoon's over. Live through it. You'll come
Mhm.
back. In another
Right.
4 weeks, it's gonna happen again. So,
Mhm.
and just be prepared. And that keeps people sticking with it longer. And it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly, we oftentimes we progress the most once we like take a pause on something we've been working really hard on, right? Your brain gets a chance to process it, but you never know exactly when that moment of processing is going to happen or the moment of kind of hitting the wall. But yeah, it's
And
repeated
I do
process.
think that adults need a goal. They say, I don't want to play recitals and stuff. That's fine. You don't have to play recital, but do you have a goal? They'll most often say, I just want to play in front of somebody that doesn't really mind me playing
Mm,
badly,
hmm.
So they need a goal.
Cool. All right. Well, we could sort of leave it at that. It's been a pleasure to have you here, Michelle, and kudos for everything that you're doing. Kind of enjoying your retirement and packing it full of exciting things and re-engaging with the joy of being a student and player of music. So wonderful
And
to hear
getting
about all that.
I'm getting to play with my husband now, which is really
Oh
nice
yeah.
because we don't yell at each other anymore.
Oh wow. Congratulations on that. Um, yeah, so thank you very much. I'll do our little outro here. We have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks for everyone who's been here, including our audience. It's great to have your energy and your focus here today and sharing an hour on a Saturday with us. Um, Piano Technicians Master Classes is what brings you this program. And that's cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. If you join us today by signing up for this session independently, make your life more convenient, subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour to 16 bucks a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each new session. Sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH, bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the podcast, the Substack, the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And to sign up for our email list at the website, just your name and email will get you up to date on everything that's going on, each week's new guests, and other exciting things. All right, that's everything for the day. We'll see you again next week. Thanks very much, Michelle. If you want to just jump quick on back on the Zoom link, we'll do a quick wrap up, you and me, after this. Okay. All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.